Okay. Wendy, immediately kind of starting off with the press conference, in the first question, things didn't seem to be going immediately well with that whole Vice President Trump comment. I'm wondering what do you make of that, as that's the kind of setting the tone for how the rest of the night is going to go? That's what's kind of trending the most on socials right now. How is that going to kind of play out over the next, I guess, news cycle, I would say?
Well, folks who saw the beginning of Biden's press conference should fast forward to the very end when he was asked about his mistake to start the press conference. And someone said, how do you counter that in the campaign? And Joe Biden said, listen to him, meaning you keep honing in on my gaffes and what I'm saying. How about we start listening to President Trump, former President Trump, and dissect what he says, how coherent it is. What does he know about anything? I mean, I think Biden was making the case this evening, whether you thought his delivery was good or bad, that he knows a lot about how the government's running, about foreign policy, about how to negotiate, all over the world. And he basically said, I know what I'm doing. I know what I need to know. And if you stop and listen to me, and also start listening to him, just figure out who you want at the helm.
What about the optics of this press conference being held post-NATO summit? There was a lot of talk of foreign policy and the questions that were asked of him, and just over the couple of days that the summit's been being held. So if you could kind of add to that, especially with all that's going on, especially in the Middle East and Russia, Ukraine, the optics of having this press conference and all these questions coming at the president right in the helm of the NATO summit.
Well, the Biden campaign was hoping that this would undo some of the damage of the debate. I'm not sure that's going to be possible to do. But what it did say was that he is still the leader of the free world, that he has a very strong command of what the stakes are internationally. And he tried to draw a contrast between what would happen with Biden at the helm versus Donald Trump returning to the helm in our relationships with the rest of the world. So that was the reason that they held the press conference at the conclusion of the NATO summit. And remember, Donald Trump hasn't always been a very big supporter of NATO alliances. He's made the good point that everybody should pay their fair share to support NATO troops. But he doesn't really believe the United States has a strong interest in staying allied with Europe. And that's something that President Biden stressed tonight as very important to preserving democracy around the world.
President Biden has been asked numerous times whether or not some of the backlash that he's received post-debate is going to lead him, or is making him question whether or not he should stay in the race. And he has vehemently said, no, that I will be staying in this, that he's in this for the long haul. He wants to win. He's going to continue. Do we think that this will start to kind of quiet down these conversations within the Democratic Party, at least, that he's said it enough times that I'm staying, I'm not going anywhere? And will this shut things down, or do we see that continuing?
I think for President Biden, the genie's out of the bottle, in the sense that, the cries for him to step aside and step down, I don't think will diminish. I think they may even grow stronger. And what he's saying to his own party is, come up with a better candidate, come up with a better replacement. And if you want to replace me at the Democratic convention, you can. And that's what he said tonight when asked flat out about that. If the convention decides they don't want you, and he said, well, it's the democratic process, little d. And so if they want to deny me the nomination, they can at the convention. And that vote virtually takes place, literally virtually, on August 7th and in person on August 14th. So basically, Joe Biden has said to the Democratic Party, find me a candidate you know for sure will defeat Donald Trump, more likely than me. And maybe, just maybe, I'll step aside, or you can replace me. But until that day, I'm staying in the race.
Who do you think Biden is speaking to the most right now in terms of people who are going to be voting in November?
It's a really great question to ask who the Biden audience is. And I suspect the Biden audience is loyal Democrats who will vote Democratic no matter what. I think he was also trying to win the support of people over the age of 65. 72% of those voters vote. and they tend to lean Republican overall. But he's trying to say, listen, what if somebody told you should get out of Dodge and push you aside? So he's trying to attract that base and labor unions. He mentioned labor several times. He mentioned unions. It's a huge force in swing states from Nevada to Michigan. And he is trying to remind labor of what the Republican Party itself will do to labor rights, minimum wage, bargaining rights, and shipping jobs overseas if the Trump administration returns and Republicans win the House and the Senate. So labor voters, Democratic voters, Black voters, and older voters are really the core of the voters that Biden is trying to win back to his side.
Wendy, that's all the questions I have, unless there's anything that you kind of you felt like was important to kind of touch on just from watching it the last hour.
I can say one more thing.
Yeah.
It also appears that President Biden might be taking a page from Trump's playbook and attacking the media a little bit, as not on his side, as ganging up on him, as not giving him a break. And, Trump did this very successfully in 2016, and he's doing it again in 2024. And President Biden looks like he might adopt a very similar strategy moving forward.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. So thank you. I appreciate that.
My pleasure, Leanne. Yeah, thanks.
Absolutely. Have a great night.
Okay, take care. See you. Bye.
Bye.